everyone, we're going to do some really nice pastel project this morning. It's this wonderful image by Alexander Nakarada from Pexel, so it's completely royalty free. First of all, you need to get the aspect ratio correct for your sugar paper, and I'm using black because obviously I'm going to use the black for the background, the night sky. You measure the length and the height and you divide, and that'll give you a number. You can then measure your piece of paper and work out the correct aspect ratio measurements for that ratio, if that makes sense. It's approximately, for this image, an A3 setup. It's a little bit shorter on the length, but you'll be fine if you go for an A3 size. So let's get going. I'm working with a soft white pastel pencil. I'm going to be working with all manner of different types of pastels this morning. They're all going to be soft because if you mix oils with a soft pastel, and that's an oil pastel obviously, then you're going to have severe problems. If you're working with pastels, work either oil pastels or soft pastels. Soft pastels are the ones that are like chalk. So if you get your nail and you slightly rub against the surface of the pastel, you'll get a dust. With the oils, pastel, they're paraffin based a lot of the time. If you rub it off, you'll see that you'll get that candle wax result. That's a good way to work it out. Now I'm going to do a loose drawing to get in the rough position of all the elements of this picture. So I'm going to look at this. I've got this lovely bit of perspective, and that's going to guide me with the perspective as well on the top of this sign. And then obviously these slight diagonals. So holding the pencil towards the end, I'm going to draft in this angle. And I'm going to draft in a little bit harder than you should, just so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. And I've got this one. Put that here. And you can see I'm keeping it real simple. Putting this in. A slight skewed rectangle. Then I've got this coming at a slight diagonal here. I've got another one poking through the back, and I've got one coming up the top here. Then from this section here, I have a slight diagonal, just whacking it in over there. There is also a little bit of a diagonal poking out there. Now, if you're unsure on the angle that you want these lines to be, a good trick of working it out is to take your pencil, like so, and line it across the angle you're unsure of on your reference image. Then if you take another pencil, and I've just got a standard pencil, make sure both your reference image is parallel to your drawing, line that up, line the pencil up on your drawing, then stand over the top and look at them and check whether the angles are correct. Now when I do this, they look pretty good. I might need to drift this one down on my picture a little bit lower. But there isn't much in it. With this type of picture, if you go wrong anywhere, you're going to start figuring it out very soon because things are not going to fit in once you try and plot them in. And then now I've got the bare bones of it. I'm just going to draft in the letters to check my overall scale is approximately right. You see this isn't perfect, it's just a beginning point. I'm looking at the O sits underneath the P, and the G sits under the ER kind of section. I might need to move that over a little bit. Everything's got to be slightly skewed. I'm a tad straight. Then I've got this lovely curve. A draft in here. Whack in a little bit of a spiral in there. And then do the same over here. Now because this side is getting slightly closer to the viewer, you should have a bigger scale with this decoration. You'll also find that this should get smaller to larger. That end should be a little bit wider than that end because of the perspective. And then just whacking that in to have a look, check that's correct. Now I've got this other sign section that's signed underneath. There again, this should be much wider than this end because of perspective. I've got a line of lights under there. I've got some material bits, and then I get some lovely little bits of weird decoration around there. Okay, that is going to there. And we need to work on the whole picture at this very beginning stage. So I'm going to draft in where everything should fit. This is sitting underneath the D. I think the D might need to be a little bit bigger and further over here. I'm going to make the O. And over the G. And you can see it's a bit messy, it doesn't matter. Stage. I got my D, which is sitting underneath here. And I find it sometimes easier to work backwards when you're doing letters like this, to check that everything fits in. So I'm going to make that a little bit longer. It may mean I need to, it may need to be a bit of jiggery pokery. It's all going to be a bit too far down one end. So we've got our long dog on a stick. I'm guessing this is American. As I'm a Brit, I have no idea what a long dog is. Maybe I should check that out before I've used this as a reference image. Could be writing anything for this artwork. It'll be the first time something like that's gone wrong. Okay, so we've got roughly the writing on there. That is in there. And now I'm going to start sticking these flags in. So I've got over my P. See, immediately, because I'm looking at the P and I'm looking at this, I've got this quite straight. Means I've gone a little bit wrong somewhere. Which is no problem. This is the early stages. You can go wrong in this stage. You can see that I'm going darker on my pencil. My hand slid down the pastel pencil, and that way I know what I want to keep and what I'm going to want to rub out. If you were in any doubt, you could take a putty rubber and lift out your errors. It can get messy, and it is probably the best practice to look at trying to do that as early on as you can. Okay, from here, cutting out the hair. Now the other thing that you need to be looking at is if you see something going off the edge, you can see this slight black rod that's holding up the flag coming off at this point. I know it should be sitting underneath the corner element of my picture. And that's my corner. That will help me get the right angle. Then I can whack that in. That might need to be a little bit wider. And I've got my C. When drawing letters, try and look at them purely as shapes and markings. Don't get caught up in letters. Oh, a little bit out. So, just going to move this all down a little bit. I think the C might need to be down a little bit earlier. Okay, get my rubber, clean out my errors, and drift everything down. Okay, I've got some stripes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 should be falling off the top, a yellow of a 7th. Then from my U, I should have another section of pole coming in. I have this part, and they're not parallel. Look at that angle that you've got on there. Connect the two, connect them at the top, bring that over a little bit more, and then I've got corn dogs up here. Which looks like it's small, and as it's getting closer to the viewer, the letters are getting bigger. Not perfect, but it gives me a starting off point to check that things are correct. Right, I've got this lovely wheel. I can see the centre is sitting just underneath the D. I've got an arch from up here. So I'm looking again along the top of my edge of my picture. It's going to come all the way down and hook around. So I'm holding the pencil towards the end, and I'm kind of creating my wrist as a compass point. And it's a lovely strong curve. Okay. I'm going to definitely pull that in. Not be coming up that far. I may not have to pull this in a little bit. Up, give me the boundary for that one. I need to drift it down a little bit. Drift that up. Okay. I've got the main structure of the wheel coming off the bottom left hand corner. That is linking up to underneath the circle, drafting in that structural section of the wheel, and then I've got another one that connects. So you can see these two, which have got green stripes, and then everything else is wheel lines and wheel arches. I could whack in this parallel line here. Again, it's about holding your pencil towards the end, going up to the top. Okay. That gives me the bare bones of the main structure of it. I'm going to take my putty rubber and just clean up anything that I don't particularly want. It might be an error, could have been just some kind of guideline that would really help me judge, make a good decision, because drawing is all about making really good decisions. Sometimes you need to draw slow, sometimes you can just trust your instincts and go for it. So no perfect rule when it comes to drawing. That's why it's such a great thing to be doing. Trust your own decision making. Okay, right, now I'm going to go in and start working up the detail. I'm going to get this sign right. I'm looking, this is quite a difficult sign because you've got a squidge on this shape. That's so technical, I know, but you know what I mean. There's a slight arch, and this point of the arch is slightly more up on the right hand side than the bottom. So I get a curve, and then it hoops out a little bit more down here. I'm not happy with that bit up there. Just going to remove that for there. I might still end up playing around with this. Very early stage of the drawing. Once you start putting the letters in, you'll really work things out. Now we've got to work on this area over here. You can see that you've got parts of the wheel coming around. Do double check that your wheel section is in the correct part here, because that's going to severely affect it if you haven't got these lines in the correct place. And you can see some of the lines, because they're lit up, the spokes of the wheel through some of the flags. And do look at where one bit is going in relation. That should go up to the end. Then you've got another one coming off. That is the N. That goes to an R. This one goes into the C. Slight bit of wheel engineering poking through certain points. Comes down through here. Remember that these can continue. You can see them poking through. And there's a slight other flag just in here. Quickly sketch those. That is in here. Like so. We've got some lines just kicking up underneath here. Looks like more letters. maybe, I don't know whether it's stripes or layers, I can't make it out. Just draw what you can see. Okay, got the spokes coming up here. Looking at that one, which should be going into the top of my edge of my piece of paper. Get the correct dimension and angle. Coming up there. And this is when it gets a little bit more difficult. Okay, so that is the main leg holding up the wheel. We've then got one. I'm going to have to work one at a time. That's the right number, however they should be a little bit tighter at certain points because of the optical illusions that goes around the wheel. I'm going to just bring this one up, that one up a little bit, so take that out, I know that I've used that one. Okay. Looks pretty good. These are then joined to the wheel centre. So you've got that one there, so there's one in between these two. There. That comes off, and I have another angle that comes to this point. So don't ever predict that everything goes to the same point, because it doesn't. You can see that angle there, because you're seeing through the wheel. And then there's various bits of construction in here. Right, I'm going to start doing some colour now. Right, okay, so we're going to start moving on to some colour. I've got some Conte crayons here. They're called Conte crayons, but they're very much like a hardened version of a soft pastel. They're in a small format, which makes it easy to handle on fine detail. I will be using a mixture of other ones as we go along. So to start with, I'm going to work on this one and work over here. This has got a slight turquoise tone, and I'm going to work on that to start off with. So I'm going to lay down the turquoise around the letters. Now the letters are going to end up being red, as you can see. I'm trying to be incredibly soft and gentle with laying down the turquoise. I'm not applying a lot of downward pressure because I don't want a huge quantity on the paper. I'm going to be mixing it in with a slight white to generate the correct tone. I'm patchworking in around the letters. I'm doing this over here. Like and using the white to lighten it. I'm going to have to put shadows in as well. The white will pick up the blue, it'll move it around a little bit more, and it'll cross-contaminate on the surface. Some areas you'll want a little bit more white, and some of it you'll probably want a little bit less. Like so. Now I'm going to take my pastel pencil. I'm going to use that to blend the two together and bring in some shadow. Therefore I'm going to be using a black pastel pencil and a white pastel pencil. Right, okay, we're going to go straight with the pastels. I'm going to use this as a reference and lean on. Alright, it protects that section. I can look and I don't have to worry what's going on underneath. You can work the shadows in for the folds of the fabric. And I'm going to take a red pastel pencil and also start working in the letters. Now this is going to be a bit too red because that's what I've got, but my plan is to put a little bit of darkness into it, the black element. The shadow, so you can see how I'm building up various colours on top of one another to get a variation of tone if I don't have the necessary colours correct. start light and go into the darks. Again for a nice bright yellow. So I've gone for a nice bright yellow. Then I'm going to work into that with a little bit of white. You can do it with a stick or you can do it with a pencil. Just grab the pencil. I'll lighten it in certain places. And I'm going to warm it up in a few different places on the lettering. You'll see that all coming together in a moment. Grab a little bit of warm orange, just soften up sections of the letter. It looks like it should be a little bit more of a warmer tone of yellow. A few smidgens up, just like that. It's a tad coloured, that initial yellow. All depends on how many different types of yellow you've got though, to whether you can do this. Then I go back on the background. So again, we're going to work that light to dark tone. First of all, I'm going to lay down some softer oranges for the lights that are going to be coming around here. A little bit over here because obviously light bounces around. I'll warm it up and change it around a bit more, but ultimately what we're doing. Then I'm going to come in for red. I'm going to make a little bit of an orange by mixing some of the red and then some of the orange that I've got down there. I'm going to take it real slow. And very gentle, soft, delicate touch. I'm going to grab some more of that orange I was using. I'm just working it in to my red in certain patches. Some areas you might want to keep the red, and some areas you might want to make it a little more orange. I haven't yet put in the darks, so don't worry too yet about those darker tones. Just looking at the texture, the light bouncing around the surface, and you know, the various different shades that we can get. It's easy to make things darker, not so easy to make them lighter. A bit of orange on this top bit. Just watching where my hand is on here so I'm not causing any damage. Get a rough idea like that. I'm going to come in with my black. black, and I'm going to start bringing in my shadows now. The shadow's quite harsh over the side. You can also see some dark undertones of the letter. Right, so I just finished off this picture with a few very soft unison pastels. If you put soft on hard, it means it'll really exaggerate the saturation of the colour and bring it up. Works incredibly well for things like lights. Could be worked to a higher level, but it's about time restrictions. Hope you had fun. Have a go now.